welcome to Woman Power. I'm your host, Lorna Grayling, and today in studio joining us is Portia Booker. She's a talk show host, a producer, and an author. Her show Groove with Portia is on every Wednesday night at WOVU or 95.9 FM. Portia is on a mission to change the narrative and stigma on mental wellness. Portia, welcome and thank you so much for joining us.
Lorna, first of all, thank you for that marvelous introduction. I am just ecstatic and elated to be here. I mean, it's always fun when you're the one being the subject matter expert instead of you always interviewing other people. So this is truly a treat and a joy for me. So thank you so much.
It's such a pleasure, Portia. How does it feel to be on the other side of the mic today?
Honestly, Lorna, it feels just relaxing. I don't have to think too much about, I have to remember that at 5 minutes till we have to go to commercial break, or, I have to remember to ask this question for the guests to promote themselves. So it's very empowering and inspiring. And also it's a learning opportunity, right? I'm a firm believer that every single event, every single situation that we're placed in gives us an opportunity for growth and expansion. And so for me, this keeps my skills sharp, right? Because, I have my own clients who I produce their podcasts and shows. So I'm able to relay what I learned doing, stepping out of my comfort zone and also relaying that to them. So I'm excited. I'm elated.
Oh, absolutely, Portia. It's so well put. I love how you just put that into words. I don't think I could have done it better. And your voice is so beautiful. I know why you are such a professional and well-known talk show host, because your voice, I mean, I can just listen to you forever.
Oh, thank you. That makes me that makes my heart warm, because for the longest time, Lorna, like, little quick story. So when I first embarked on my television career, when I was in college, literally when I read from the teleprompter the first time, I ran out of the studio and hid in the bathroom because I thought my voice sounded like a dying cat being scratched by Edward Scissorhand, like, literally. Not
That is so amazing. Isn't it incredible, Portia, how sometimes the very thing that God wants to use for his glory, in our minds, we just don't think we're good enough. I hear that story so often. It's that one thing that the devil really tries to steal, is our confidence in that very thing that we're actually called for. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, he's the robber of joy. Comparison is the thief of joy. And that's why, I'm grateful for the day that I learned to own my voice, the day that I stopped comparing the fact that my voice wasn't super high pitched, or, it didn't have a certain tone per se, because I'm a force to be reckoned with. I mean, I'm not only just powerful in my voice, I'm also physically strong as well. And finally, when I was able to blend those two areas of my life that were polar opposites, right? Because of societal standards, right, Lauren? I mean, you've been in the model scene, you know how that goes. There's always this set standard that you have to fit. Once I realized that I could own my difference and still be able to connect with people on the same humanistic plateau, that's when the magic happened for me.
Oh, that is just so powerful. Absolutely. Portia, let's jump right into it, because you have such a powerful story, and you're now the author of this incredible book. I love how you voice certain things. You've just got such beautiful sayings. But before writing the book, I know that you were diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2016. Tell us about that. What does that mean? And what does a day in the life look like for you, and things that you struggle with?
Ooh, Lorna, when I think about the fact that that was only 6 years ago, 6 years ago, it blows my mind to see where I was then. I was this broken, shattered person who, on the outside of the world, I had it all. I really did. I had the dream job, right? Living the American dream, brand new state, brand new city, brand new job, brand new people. So literally, I had the highlight reel of Instagram then. If Instagram had the highlight reels in 2016, I had it. I mean, and when I think back to that time of when I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, I was already mentally unwell. I mean, talk about manic to the T, like manic plus 10 different doses of prednisone on overdrive, like literally. But I must say, through that journey, it propelled me to where I am today. But let me go back really quick. When I first got diagnosed, that's when I was a television producer for NBC. And I was having a hard time adjusting to that new life, right? I'd never been away from home. I'd never been so far away from my nucleus support system. And what we fail to realize in our society, there's grief that comes with that. Did I make the right decision to take this job? Should I have stayed home a little bit longer? What about all the family engagements that I'm missing? Or, what if somebody gets sick? So there's all these other things that are plaguing my mind on top of trying to make a good impression to my new employer.
And it's a very stressful environment as well. Let's just be honest. I mean, it looks very glamorous from the outside, television and production, but it's very stressful.
Yeah. And I worked overnights, Lorna. I worked 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Sunday through Thursday. So I literally only had, a day and a half off. I'm sleeping during the daytime and up all night. And I'm not nocturnal. I've met people who have been nocturnal, but I've always been the early riser. I'm up at 4 a.m. People ask me all the time, Portia, when I see your Instagram story that you're writing in your gratitude journal, are you really up? Yes, I am actually up. If it's 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock, 2 a.m., yes, Portia is up. If I wake up at that time, I just make use of it.
Yeah.
But, back to that time, Lorna, the first thing I noticed when I would be at work typing my scripts, because, you only get 3 to 7 minutes to write every script to fill that rundown. It literally sounded like the Charlie Brown teacher in my ear going, want. I'm like, what? I'm not comprehending anything that I'm reading.
Yeah.
I'm already sleep deprived. Of course, I'm already stressed. Like you mentioned, that environment is high stress. I mean, from the minute you walk into the newsroom, let's be honest, you are on deadline.
Yeah.
And there's never enough. You never reach that point of, the rundown's fully stacked. Because as we know, when live TV is on, you're going to have not shows, but stories that are removed because if breaking news comes out of Washington or wherever. Of course, that trumps the whole rundown. We both know that.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to make a good impression. Obviously, I'm not performing well. And I must say, Lorna, I'm grateful to this day for one of the executive producers who pulled me to the side. I'll keep them anonymous. They pulled me to the side and said, hey, I see that you're having a rough time. Maybe you should go see somebody. I know it's none of my business, but I know that this is a new experience for you. Mm-hmm. So I took their advice. I made an appointment to see a psychiatrist, and it took 3 to 4 weeks to even get in.
Yeah.
So I'm not even going to touch on that.
Yeah. So by then you don't even want to go anymore, right?
They asked me very specific questions like, have you been on a spending binge? Have you indulged in all these overactive behaviors and activities? And of course, you're going to say yes, because who doesn't at this age? I'm 25, 26, new to this brand new state. I'm young, right? Yeah. So literally that whole questionnaire that this psychiatrist filled out, she said to me, you have bipolar disorder. And I said, what? Is that the same as being bisexual? What does that mean? Because I grew up in a household where mental health and mental wellness was not talked about. So I'm like, what does this mean? And she says to me, well, your brain's broken. It's not your fault. And you're going to have to be on meds the rest of your life. And Lorna, right then and there,
wow,
my mind was telling me, I'm not buying this.
Yeah.
I'm not buying this prescriptive narrative you're trying to sell to me. But of course, let's be honest, when you are in a state of panic, I'm already on a PIP at work, okay? They've already put me on a PIP. I'm on the verge of losing my job, losing my apartment, losing my car, losing everything that I had worked hard to get.
Yeah.
So, of course, you buy into the very first raft or life jacket that's being posed to you. and you don't really have quote unquote time to do your own research of, okay, let's try an alternative. No, you're holding on for dear life. So I bought into it, and I was placed on a cocktail of obviously prescription medications, and I've been on a slew of them. I don't need to go through the whole list. Let me just say I've taken a multitude and none of them worked. And what eventually ended up happening, Lorna, I reached a point where I'd already felt worthless.
Mhm.
I had already knew that life was too much for me.
Mhm.
I was too ashamed to go back home and tell my family that I failed.
Yeah.
So for me, the only exit out of that life, out of that event in my life, was to kill myself.
Mhm.
And I literally remember it just aligned parallel. It aligned parallel. I remember I went into work already feeling worthless, already feeling like I'm the laughing stock of society. And of course, I don't know what happened. I guess one of the producers who I worked with had somebody, instead of adding milk to their Cheerios, they added lard to their Cheerios. I'll just say it in a nice way. And they took their rage and anger out on me in the newsroom in front of everybody. So
On
you
the
talk
wrong
about
day.
public humiliation, talk about childhood trauma of being bullied in school resurfacing, right? So it was almost equivalent to me being in a horror movie, and I'm faced in front of the murderer with all of these knives in front of me.
Yeah.
So of course,
Huge
what are you
trauma,
gonna do?
right?
Being a bird in a cage,
Yeah.
right? Bird in a cage sometimes is going to scream, is going to yell. Sometimes a bird in a cage is going to just lay there and be sad.
Mhm.
Lorna, I just remember I shut down.
Mhm.
I literally shut down, and I might get emotional because it's still sometimes that story still to this day. I remember getting up from my desk, going into the dressing room, and I just cried. I just cried. And I'm somebody who does not cry often.
Mm.
And I mean, everything just came out. And I said, you know what? That's it. And for people, trigger warning, when people want to commit suicide and they know it in their heart, there's this level of euphoria that springs forth where you're super excited, but it's not the type of excitement like you're excited about life. You're excited that this pain point in your life is going to end.
Yeah. What a feeling. I can't imagine. Mm.
So right after my shift ended at 7 o'clock in the morning, 6, 7 o'clock, I'm driving back to my apartment. And where I lived at, I lived right on the river. And I'm somebody who cannot swim. So I stopped at the river, and I literally was about to jump off the bridge into the river. And I got a phone call. This is one of my guardian angels to this day.
Amen.
One of my college professors just happened to read through my text message. Now, I don't know what I said to them. I might have said, this is the end, or I'm done, whatever it was. But whatever magic word triggered them to call me, they said, Portia, you are not well. You need to go to the hospital right now.
Mm.
And believe it or not, Lorna, I listened. I listened to them, and I got down from the bridge, got in my car, and you know what? They know me too well. The fact that they called the hospital to make sure that I was on my way.
Oh, wow. That is truly a guardian angel, right? I mean, that is just amazing.
They called, and off I went. Of course, they did a little intake, all that. And while I'm sitting there on the bed, Lorna, the epiphany hit me.
Mm.
There's more to my life than this.
Yeah.
Oh, what a realization to have, especially at that moment, because that is true. That is the truth, right? There is more to life than we sometimes think and feel. And then, so Portia, I mean, besides that, you went through the enormous grief of your mother passing away. So you had so much to deal with, and I know that before that you were actually looking after your mom who wasn't well. So, years and years of grief, but you have come out a complete victor on the other side. Share a little bit of your journey. How did you transition from, I want to say, victim to victor? So first question, and then please share with us a little bit of your story, because your book about your mom's transition, her dying and your transformation. I love those two words, transition and transformation. So we'll touch on that as well. But yeah, take us back to that time, and take us through the process. How did you become a victor over those circumstances?
Yeah, Lorna, I'll be honest, I'm still a work in progress. But when I think about my grief journey of my mom being her full-time caregiver, what really helped me to become victorious this time, because grief is no stranger to any of us.
Mm-hmm.
Grief stems from the loss of something, whether it's the physical loss, as in death or transition of somebody, a breakup, a friendship, the childhood you never had. There's a lot of things that stem from grief.
Mm-hmm.
My journey, my television career, my mental health breakdown served as the pavement and foundation for me to be able to go through this process with my mom, because that was a big loss for me. After I worked so hard to land that position, took on a brand new endeavor 1,000 miles away from home, and then to have to walk away.
So you actually had two losses, right? I mean, first you lost your family in a way, you lost your comfort in your environment that's familiar. And then after the second loss of this dream job, like you say, and then you had to go back home and say, well, in your eyes, it's a failure. I failed at this thing that I actually went for. Yeah, that's tough. And there's so many people that deals with, like you say, this grief and this loss, and they don't actually realize it. They think, oh, it's life, I just got to do it. But they're not realizing the actual enormous grief that they're going through.
Yeah. And there's always a blessing within our grief journey. And for me, once I let go of that experience per se, or those emotions of being hurt, resentful that my television career did not garner me the luxury to climb up the ladder, instead of me falling into that boat of why does this keep happening to me, I said, God, why not me? God, thank you. Thank you for giving me this journey, because God doesn't put his toughest warriors through mediocre tasks. He puts us through these experiences because he knows that we can handle them with his help, and also help to change the world and ignite conversations around these, what I call prison cells that our society has put us in. And grief is one of them. And so when I think about my mom's journey, my mom had been sick a long time. I mean, when I moved back home, talk about again hitting the ground running. When I moved back home in 2018, a month after I moved back home, my great-grandmother passed away. My great-grandmother played a pivotal role in my upbringing too. So that's one of the key matriarchs gone. Then a month after that, my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer and going through her journey of chemo, radiation, immunotherapy. And after my mom went through all of that, she was doing great. But then, of course, here comes COVID. Here comes the pandemic. And unfortunately, my whole house got COVID last year. And my mom was admitted. And even honestly, Lorna, before COVID, I saw my mom start to decline a lot from her aftermath of her cancer journey. I saw it a ton. And you know what I realized with my mom it's so funny when I think about it now. Me and my mom had went to go get acupuncture done. We both used to get it together. And the acupuncturist told my mom, he said, Miss Lopez, you need to cry.
Sure.
Oh.
You're filled with grief.
Mm.
And when my mom made her transition, for a period of time, Lorna, I could not cry. I could not. I was so angry at God. I'm like, God, hey, what the heck? You took my mom, you took my granny, you left one here. Hello? Like,
Yeah.
what the heck? I was so angry, but I felt as though I could not express my anger towards God, because we are born to think we're supposed to fear God. But if God wants us to be joyful, God also wants us to express when we are not happy.
Yeah. It's that relationship with him, right? Is to be able to go to his feet and cry and scream and say, Lord, I'm so frustrated. I don't understand. But then give me the strength to go through this. But I love how you're saying this, that, you know, it's good to cry. It's healing to cry. And there's a space for that that's very, very important, because not crying, it seems like that is harboring feelings of anger, and, you know, and it's just not releasing it. And that is actually part of the healing. I love that. That is very profound. Portia, then, I mean, you've moved over to this profound woman, and I love how you say certain phrases in your book, just how you use the trauma and the loss that propels you now to greatness. You know, it's like your mind has completely switched around, and you now just seeing all this hope and positivity. Was that a process? Was it something that you focused on doing, or was it something that came naturally, or through prayer, or how did you transition to a different mindset, if I can call it that?
You said the right word, transition, because literally, Lorna, when I think about, and I'm going to get emotional, when I think about the day of my mom's transition, July 7th, 2022, I remember saying a prayer to God when I got the phone call from the hospital, Portia, your mom's oxygen won't go above 70. And my mom had told me the day before on the phone, she said, Portia, I can't go another night like that. I remember asking God, I said, God, give me the strength. But also, God, if it's my mom's time to go, I surrender my mom back to you, but keep me one promise. Let my mom go in peace.
Yeah.
And he did. God kept his promise to me. My mom, you know, I was able to tell my mom on her very last day here before her transition, thank you, Ma, for being my cheerleader when I couldn't cheer for myself. Thank you for encouraging me to go for my dreams, my goals, everything, when the rest of the world and our family laughed at me. And I said, honestly, Mommy, I would never want to call anybody else in this world my mother but you.
Sure. Oh, Portia.
And she said to me, she said, well, Portia, Mommy's job is done. But little did I know that was only the beginning for what was to come for me. So let's fast forward a week later, after my mom transitioned, when me and my brother went to go pick up her ashes from the funeral home. And my brother's like, oh, you have to take her ashes home because I have to go somewhere. I'm like, well, why do I got to be the ashtray? Why I got to carry the ashes home? You know. So I put the ashes in my back seat, put a seatbelt around it. And Lorna, right when I'm driving home, the epiphany flies into my window, literally like a bird flying through. Hey, Portia, what if your mom's transition is for your transformation? Now, mind you, I didn't understand what that meant at the time, because of course I'm filled with anger, I'm filled with sadness, all of those things. But when I think about it today, when I became full-time caregiver of my mom, I stopped living. I became so dependent upon being my mom's full-time caregiver that everything that I wanted to do or aspired to do had been put on hold. And God literally came to me. He said, Portia, I needed to bring you to your knees to
Sure.
get you back on the path that I wanted you to be on.
Wow.
Mommy is safe with me, but I needed you back because I have bigger plans for you, Portia, to help other people to become free.
Amen.
from their grief.
And you truly are, Portia. I mean, we've got literally about a minute left to share, but I mean, you truly are doing just that. And I think your mom would be so proud. You are now the talk show host of Groove with Portia, and you are
Yes.
truly breaking this stigma of mental wellness with your show. You have profound stories on your show, Groove with Portia. I'll put the link on screen now. A last word of wisdom to our audience in terms of dealing with grief.
Grief is a process, but it's not permanent. Look at grief from the lens of opportunity. When one door closes, many other doors open. And also think about when that loss happens, whether it's a job, a friendship ending, obviously with my mom's transition, what would that person want for you? That person wouldn't want you to be a prisoner of their transition or their death to stop you from truly living the life and the tailored path that you're supposed to be on. So use grief as a leverage for you to step into your greatness. Because remember, grief is no stranger to any of us. But even though it's no stranger, there is also a room for growth and opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. Amen. Thank you, Portia. Thank you so much for joining us. We're at the end of our show, but thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you, Lorna. I appreciate you.
Well, that is it from me, Lorna Grayling and Woman Power. If you would like to find out more about Portia and her show, you can have a look on screen right now. The link is on there. Until next week, goodbye.